My name is Eve. I'm one of the organizers of the EIS 2022 event. We're so glad to have you here. And we are also really glad to have Paul Rhinehart here from SmartPanda Tools to tell us a little bit more about what the best problem is that you can have and how exactly you can manage it. So Paul, without further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you. Again, so happy this year to be participating in EIS, I guess you call it EIS, EIS. Fantastic conference, I guess the third year, and always just have a really wonderful time. It's a great collection of ideas and innovators that they come together for this. And I'm so happy the sessions are recorded and available later, because obviously depending on the time zone they're in, a lot of people cannot make it. And but anyway, yeah, let's just jump in. I think we have probably about 30-45 minutes. Let's go ahead through. So this is my opening problem. I want to have a little fun with, and you can see this, right? I have the control panel here, but you can see the full slide.
Yes, we can.
So we call this the best problem to have, and I actually kind of changed my subtitle here, how to survive it, and have a image of trying to get an image of a tidal wave here. We're going to really be talking about admissions and recruiting in this session, and call it the best problem to have, because what we're talking about is the challenge of managing, an onslaught, an inundation, a tidal wave of applicants and inquiries, prospects that want to come to your school, right? You're running a college or university. You're probably running it on PeopleSoft if you're at this conference, and you have a great problem, which is the challenge of managing all these inquiries and applicants. So we're going to talk about how to manage this, or how to survive it. Let me get some water here. Yeah, there we go. This is our website here. Just real quick, SmartPanda Tools. Just a quick flash of our website, smartpandatools.com. Encourage you to check it out. We started at this work as PeopleSoft consultants, and started rolling out, products to fill the gaps that we saw in PeopleSoft. And so we're going to be showing a few of our tools here today. I just want to introduce our website there. I'll close that. But feel free to reach back out to me. Would love to hear from anybody. Just to rehash real quick the session topic here, or the summary. Is your admissions office or recruiting office flooded with applicants? It's an excellent problem to have, but there are bottlenecks, right? We're gonna focus on some of these bottlenecks that prevent you serving these prospects and applicants in a timely fashion to keep up with today's market and expectations of increasing competition for the same students. So we're going to talk a little bit about the beginning of this session about the dynamics in the marketplace, and which in the past few years have even exacerbated these bottlenecks. And then we're going to look at tips and techniques for streamlining the processing. We're going to look at some self-service innovations, self-report, automations of transcripts and transfer credit, and making data work for you. Some tips and tools that we can use to really do more with less. So this slide here, we call this Turbulence, and this is really, we're not going to go too much in depth on this. Those of you listening to this session or working in admissions and recruiting offices will know many of these factors all too well. But it's really interesting to look at this and step back and think about these dynamics, because there's factors at play here, as the slide is saying. The same factors that increase competition can increase volume. So in today's world, you might think that if there's a certain pool of interested applicants, they're just going to segment themselves, right? And 30% are going to go here or apply here, 30% are going to apply here, and 30% apply here. And but in today's market, you might see all 100. Well, that's all. You might see all 100% of them apply to all 3 schools, right? In today's market, with the digitization of things and other factors, and what we saw is the admissions requirements where tests, standardized tests are no longer required. You may have admissions offices or certainly prospecting offices where the same applicant or prospect is contacting 20 schools, right? There's no cost to them. There's very low effort for them. Tests are not required. And so this is, it's competitive. At the same time, there's more volume, right? So, and again, just some of the factors I tried to demonstrate a cycle or an interaction, because these factors in the market are interacting with each other, right? Expectations of students and staff. It's been a very interesting psychological process, right? And sociological process to watch this, right? Students and staff as well are expecting everything to be digitized and automated, right? We're less and less, we hear about the mass resignation and all this happening in the job market. So I think schools are pressed to find employees that will sit and manually process thousands of records. That's a model that staff, certainly, and even more so students, are just not going to tolerate. So all these pressures are leading to digitization and automation, evolving job skills, the variety of students. We're seeing learning goals such that the point with these elements is that the line between work and school is blurring, right? Different content providers. So when you see Google saying, you know what, we're going to start offering credentials, a Google certificate, and we'll hire you. You don't even have to have high school or college, we'll hire you because you can show that you have certain skills. So this market is increasing. Schools may be competing now, not just with other schools, but with employers and industrial bodies and content providers who can say, look, we can provide certification of these skills. So yeah, there's certainly geography is right. You're competing globally now, not just regionally, right? The good old days when schools in Massachusetts could say, yeah, we really only have to worry about our applicants coming from high schools in Massachusetts. We really don't have to worry about them applying to Vermont or Rhode Island, right? But now it's, Arizona State is trying to get your students from Massachusetts, right? So we could spend a whole hour, a whole day probably talking about some of these dynamics, but the point is that it increases the appetite for and the pressure for response times, immediacy, and digitization. And here's some themes, right, that everybody knows these all too well, right? Self-service, immediacy, connectivity, rules-based automations. Everything needs to be fast. It needs to be intelligent. These are good, there are problems to keep up with the demand for this, but this is an amazingly innovative time because of these expectations. So we're going to get now very specific on a couple of bottlenecks, right? So a lot of what I'm telling you, right, schools have already figured this out. Applications for admissions, prospecting, you've got Salesforce, you've got Slate, you've got these cloud-based tools that highly automate a lot of this already. Chatbots, and right, a lot of this is not new, but there's still a few bottlenecks where things are not digitized, they're not automated, and so they cause snags. So official documents is one of those, right? what we're really talking about here is things like transcripts, in some case test results, but not so much. Let's focus on transcripts, maybe letters of reference sometimes, although those are digitized. Really talking about transcripts here. And again, there's several reasons that transcripts create a snag in this journey of an applicant, right? In some cases, it's a pause in the journey enforced by policy. So you may, at your school, you may have a policy that just says, look, if we've got your application, we've got your letters of reference, we've got your essays and so on, but we're not going to move you any further in consideration until we have an official transcript. So we'll talk about, so there's some policies that you'll need to reconsider, because if you put that applicant on hold, you may never get that official transcript. There's snags in requesting official transcripts. There's all kinds, as you well know, there's all kinds of ways that, you know, go back to your schools that you've attended and try to get an official transcript. It's still amazingly sometimes tedious and difficult. There's delays in transmission of those. So even once a student submits a request to the school to send you an official transcript, it can take days, weeks, maybe, depending on, you know, where that school is and what their infrastructure is, for you to even get. You may receive that still in hard copy. So digitizing, delays and costs in digitizing and ingesting. So even once you receive that official transcript by PDF, or, you know, by email or by hard copy, we see schools with backlogs, sometimes several months backlogs of transcripts just stacking up. You can see the papers in the background here stacked up because I just can't keep up with processing these documents. So what are the solutions, right, for accelerating, getting over this documents bottleneck? Self-report is a strong one. We strongly encourage schools to look at self-report. We know probably many people are thinking, yeah, we're already doing that, but I think it's surprising how many are not doing it. A lot, again, of it is policy. We suggest that you revisit and look at, why not, you know, accept self-report. We know that self-report is not official. You're going to still need official confirmation, right? But allowing self-report and having a policy that says, look, we're going to accept your self-report. We may even admit you based on self-report, but if it turns out you're lying to us, right, or you've, you know, falsified what you've told us, we may have to rescind or revisit your admissions and so on. I have a screenshot here. I'm going to demo a self-report bolt-on, right? So we're talking in this conference about innovative technology, and PeopleSoft, we really pound on this theme every year. PeopleSoft is an amazingly, we have a bullet here, take advantage of the PeopleSoft API friendly, being integration friendly. It's an amazingly open system, and we think it's underutilized as an open system. So here for the University of Houston, now for over a year, we've been running a self-report bolt-on and using APIs to push back to PeopleSoft. This is just a little test launch here, and I'm going to show you this. So if we just do our test launch here, this is a visual, you know, of the bolt-on. So this is lives in the cloud, all right, and it's an applicant. So Houston, University of Houston, you know, gets several hundreds of these a week because they're requiring, they're putting a link in PeopleSoft, right? They're building a hyperlink in PeopleSoft that the applicant then at a certain point can click that link and go out and self-report their high school courses. So let's show you how that works, right? And it's a simple exercise for a student to do this. We are, you know, everything you see here is API driven. We're hitting Houston's PeopleSoft to, even for these course selections, right? These are courses, course titles that and subjects that exist in the Houston database, in PeopleSoft in Houston, right? So we can Let's do save and add a new one. So if I'm the student, I'm just sitting here, right, telling you what I took in high school from a list that is being driven by the Houston PeopleSoft. So after I enter my 10 or 15 or 20 rows, I click submit, and I'm going to close this. Taking advantage of the openness of PeopleSoft, we're able to push this data back into PeopleSoft, right? So self-report can within a matter of seconds appear inside PeopleSoft. I'm going to go ahead to my home page here so you can visually see this. So we're taking advantage of PeopleSoft's external education and the external courses tab here. And so we're able, with an API, to whatever the student has self-reported. I'll do a view all. This student only has one, but whatever the student has self-reported, we can real time push that back into the self-reported page. And so we just saved, right, with that simple bolt-on and hundreds of applicants hitting that and pushing it into PeopleSoft. We've just, think about the exponential savings to your staff. Manual entry is no longer even on the table or even necessary. And we would assert that a transcript could even be, or an unofficial transcript could even be uploaded in that same fashion. Again, many of you are thinking, yeah, we're already doing that. But I think, if you're not doing that, you definitely should be thinking of it. Just tooling along here. Transcript ingestion is another part of that bottleneck, that document bottleneck. We talked about the self-report as a powerful tool for getting the student's education history. The Raptor tool, which I'm going to be showing you here, is another powerful tool where if you're not using, the concept here is OCR, right? So you've received a paper document, a transcript, you've received a PDF, which is very common nowadays, but that's not in your PeopleSoft, right? It's not in your external education. And so we need a way to, automatically read a PDF, automatically read an imaged hard copy, and get that into PeopleSoft. And so OCR, again, there's been schools that have implemented OCR, but what we think of as classic OCR has a high cost and it has a high implementation time. So many schools around the world just have not been able to take advantage of that OCR model, and are still, surprisingly, there's a huge amount of manual entry of transcripts. People whose days are spent just pumping rows into this grid, and it's not fun, and it holds up a serious delay on your admissions. Let's do a quick demo of Raptor. So again, what we did with Raptor is that's a SmartPanda tool that reads and digitizes transcripts. So let's just do a quick demo of this. And what we did here, again, we're taking advantage of the openness of PeopleSoft. We've implemented Raptor with Banner and some other student systems, but PeopleSoft is especially open for this. So we created a bolt-on tab onto the external education. Didn't have to customize the existing pages, and I can just launch Raptor from here. Just going to log in. And yeah, so here I'm just going to select my default logic. And we don't have time for a deep dive into how Raptor works, but I just want you to get the visual that we can basically find a sample PDF here, right? That's my transcript. It might be in PDF. It might be an image in my imaging system, any digital form, right? I'm just going to process this. So again, like the difference between Raptor and a classic OCR is this is on the cloud. There's no mapping you need to do. There's no templates you need to build or maintain. As a cloud tool, Raptor can learn from all the many thousands of transcripts that we see. It uses artificial intelligence to learn, and you could see with that push of a button, it was able to, the algorithms are able to digitize the coursework, and we can push this back to PeopleSoft. So there's the, again, using APIs and the friendliness of PeopleSoft integration broker, we push that back in. So there, with that little, loop, that little data loop there, we just saved someone, to sit and look at this transcript as a human being, right? And then manually type in each one of these courses. You're looking at 20 minutes easily. So you're ready now, you're done, and you're ready to move to the next one. There's a lot of reasons to use OCR: speed and quality. So yeah, we don't have time for a deep dive on that, but these are the kinds of automations, that digitizations in today's world that can accelerate your processing and trying to do more with less. Raptor can run as a batch processor. I just showed you the human assisted mode, but we can batch loop through documents. There's an API for Raptor, so you can call it as a service to process transcripts. We could go a long time on different functionalities of Raptor. I should have referred you to, if you go back to our website, we have a YouTube channel with a lot of videos of all these things I'm showing you. But there's a lot of other ways to digitize transcripts, right? EDI and XML, right? These bullets here. We have SmartPanda offers tools that import EDI and XML into PeopleSoft. You can build your own. We've been, I think the industry is decades behind in digitizing student educational history. At one point, I'll show you, at one point we even were trying to promote even web services as just going back to my website here and show you the web service, because this is my favorite. At the end of the day, this is something we were trying to promote. We didn't, this is almost so futuristic that I think people couldn't quite wrap their heads around it, but this is real. We had this working in our own demo environments where we could pull, even in self-service, we could let a student pull using, again, taking advantage of integration broker, real time, to pull their enrollments from one school, from the school they attended to the school they're applying to. Why not do that with a direct connection between the schools, right? You don't need EDI, you don't need XML, you don't need the PDF. It's pure data. In the same way you can send someone money on your phone, it's pure data. So again, we think there's all kinds of room for innovation in transcripts. Yeah, and again, I'm looking at the clock here, mindful of we're got maybe another 15 minutes, but I don't want to go too fast. But moving on to keeping our framework of what are the snags and bottlenecks in, the best problem to have. I've got all these applicants and inquiries that want to come to my school. We're hearing these stories about schools that are having to cut down or fire people, or layoffs, and schools closing because there's not enough applicants. Birth rates are down. But the best problem to have is you have a lot of applicants who want to attend your school. When you want to seize that, you want to serve them as best as possible. And another bottleneck in that is course equivalencies. Students are bringing you, applicants and prospects are bringing you educational history. They even a lot of college freshmen now have some community college course that they've taken. Certainly adults do, military. Right? So the applicants or your prospects are coming to you with a lifetime of education, to maybe 2 courses they've taken somewhere, maybe 10 or 20, maybe they've attended 5, 6 different community colleges or other colleges, right? And they transfer evaluation has got to be an automated part of your process. It's a huge bottleneck now. And again, there's a lot of reasons why it's a bottleneck. The evaluation, where it sits in your organization itself, is something to think about. If you've got transfer evaluation sitting downstream in your registrar's office, and you're not even going to give a prospect any kind of tentative evaluation, and you're not going to give an applicant any evaluation of their transfer credit, you know, applicants today, prospects today, are going to expect that you can tell them what, you know, they're shopping around. They want to know, look, I've got all these credits. Who's gonna accept these? And so if you're doing that manually, where you have some form someone can fill out and request an evaluation that they might get 2 months later, you know, that's just not going to work in today's environment. So, but PeopleSoft has a very complex transfer credit structure. So a lot of these are all reasons why it's a bottleneck. So the complexity of PeopleSoft for transfer evaluation. A transfer evaluation is just conceptually difficult. Students, sometimes it depends on what the student's major is. Students change their major. The equivalencies are constantly, the curriculum is constantly changing. When you're doing transfer equivalencies, you're right in the meat of curriculum. You're thinking, what course did they take? What was the nature of that course? What was the syllabus? What was the learning outcomes of that course? And then what is the equivalent in our curriculum? So this is a deeply academic exercise. And so again, this can become a serious bottleneck. So we're just going to move ahead to how to automate transfer. And so here we're promoting a tool called Rulemaker. But again, you know, we're focusing on some tools that we provide, but the principles behind these tools we want people to think about also, which is automation inside PeopleSoft. So let's look at how Rulemaker works just to illustrate that. And don't have time for a deep dive here, but inside my PeopleSoft, so here's the Rulemaker bolt-on. Inside my PeopleSoft, I can do a fetch of course credits that I've already awarded. And we found 326 of them. And this is a grid of historical credits. So Rulemaker can, one of the themes of our presentation is make the data work for you, right? Take advantage of the data you've got lying around inside PeopleSoft, and some of the data you have lying around is a lot of transfer credit you've already granted to students in the past. Transfer credit is highly repetitive. Very likely, if I gave someone credit for calculus last year or last month, I'm going to give it to the same person next month, right? And so this historical fetch allows me to harvest that data I've got lying around in PeopleSoft and turn it into rules. So I can try to illustrate that for you here. Since this is manual credit, I just need to find a journal org ID. Let's just use Utah, just in the interest of time here, moving through this. And we've got some automations to fill in these fields, but I'm just wanted to give you a quick demo here. And I'm just going to go ahead and select and save this row. So the equivalency I'm building here is Math 15, equivalent to my Math 11. And I'm just going to go ahead and move to my create the courses and tables. So these are the PeopleSoft tables that are required, right? And so we're taking the complexity. You don't have to sit here and manually populate all these tables to create a rule. You can just use Rulemaker to automate the building of those. And so we just built these rules with here's the math rule that we built. I can show you here. So there's the math equivalency, the calculus that we just created, right? So we've taken the heavy lifting. Rulemaker has a lot of functionality to we can load rules from a spreadsheet, from an Excel spreadsheet. We even have an API for Rulemaker. So if you have your transfer equivalencies in some third-party system, you can push those, again, taking advantage of the openness of PeopleSoft, push those transfer rules into PeopleSoft. The virtue of, again, I can't speak too much about the virtue of automating transfer. When you build those rules inside PeopleSoft, you can also then expose them to self-service modeling, right? So there's such a huge upside to populating those rules inside your PeopleSoft. It pays off in processing of your transfer credit big time, and you can then expose those rules in a self-service framework. And so again, we're not going to have time to explore all the different ramifications of this, but as you can tell, a major theme that we emphasize is the self-service revolution. The expectations of prospects and applicants for immediacy of self-service and scope of self-service are just going to keep on rising. And so we have another tool. I won't show you this, but just to reference it on our website here. Another bolt-on that we call the gateway, transfer gateway. That is, again, it's another bolt-on that lives in the cloud, but it uses integrations to talk to PeopleSoft and does all of these things, right? So expose your transfer rules to the world so that a prospect can model. They can self-report and model what courses you may accept. They can self-report and model not only what courses you're going to accept for transfer, but if you're using PeopleSoft advisement, you can even then invoke that and tell them, look, you're bringing me these courses from Long Beach City College. Here's what our rules tell us we will accept. And here's what those courses will count towards some degrees. So allow your students to shop around, right? Let's move ahead to self-credential shopping, right? This is the kind of stuff applicants are looking for now. If I've got, 6 community colleges I've attended with a bunch of courses, I want to be able to shop those around. And so by exposing this, leveraging this gateway tool or other front end to PeopleSoft, you can allow prospects to basically probe your degree audit, to self-service degree audits and what if degree audits. I think the what if degree audit in PeopleSoft, that's a delivered PeopleSoft function, has been highly underutilized because we would enable even a prospect to shop around and expose how their credits would actually earn credentials at your school. Anyway, so there's a lot of pretty low-hanging fruit and ways to enable that. You want to become an open campus. You've got the person on the street who is approaching you for the first time, and you can't let that person bounce off of you, right? You need to capture that person's attention. You need to serve them in an elegant, fully digitized way. If they're bringing you transfer credits or they have a transcript, you need to be able to ingest that real time. And in a single session, this to me is the holy grail here. If I approach your institution as a person on the street, you have no idea who I am. In one web session, I can authenticate, I can create myself in your system. I can be admitted. It might be a provisional admission, right? Based on the fact you haven't received my official document, so on. And I can enroll. To me, this is the big one. If I'm approaching you for the first time and bringing you a bunch of transfer credit, the perfect ideal result is by the time I leave your website, I am enrolled in classes for that next term. You've captured me. That's the competitive advantage that you want. And reaching further up the pipeline to high schools and to employers, to employees to enroll them. And this is all very possible, right? With the kinds of tools we'll wind up here and open this for questions. But last kind of slide we want to talk about is making data work for you. You've got a robot shaking hands with another robot, and this is the world we're in, right? That's the ideal. Is humans are only doing things that humans are necessary for, and there are still a lot of things that only humans can do, right? But there's a lot of good things that robots are good at, and so make that data work for you. That's a lot of the themes we've been showing you here today. Take advantage of integrations, make those automations real time, right? One of the features, I'll just show you this kind of in closing here, that we did with Rulemaker was add it onto course credits automated. So let me just show you here, and we'll give you a full demo here, but just to show you visually. Here's a build rules button here that we added right onto the, so I'm doing transactional data here, right? My student, my course, or my school, I'm sitting here as a official working on one student. Put the rules in the background, right? Make the data work for you. I have enough data on this page to create a transfer rule. Why should I have to open, right? Why should a human being have to open new pages, multiple pages, and populate all these setup tables? It takes me a half an hour, right? When all the data is here on the page. Make that work for you. Put that in the background, and so that the human can focus on what they're trying to, the business goals they're trying to accomplish. So yeah, I can go a long time on there, but I know we're at time. Let me just wind up here and open for a question. And thanks everyone.
If anyone has any questions for Paul, they can type them in that little questions module that you should see on your screen. Otherwise, Paul, I don't know if you have time to pop into the spatial chat room that you can find on the EIS webpage, but some of the presenters have been popping in there afterward just in case anyone wanted to chat.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by the new tools that EIS is using this year, so I'll definitely go in there, and looking forward to attending some of the, I'm on Pacific time zone here, so it's starting my day, and I'll look forward to joining some of the other sessions throughout the day.
Awesome. Well, I haven't seen any questions come in, but all of you should feel free to pop into spatial chat and see how it looks. At the very least, it's a neat thing and might be a fun thing to take back to your own teams. Totally free, fun to use. With that, I'm going to say thank you so much, Paul. You made some really great points there, and you're doing some really interesting stuff. Thank you so much for sharing it with us and being a part of the third EIS event. It's really great to have you back.
Yep, thank you for all your work.
My pleasure, and thank you all for attending. Have a great rest of your day.